Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we ask if Dante of the Blood Angels is the greatest chapter master of all time. Does he have any true rivals for the title? I'll throw out a general spoiler warning to begin here, as we will be discussing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so just keep that in mind. But with that said, let's waste no time and just jump straight in. When it comes to Legends of the Imperium, Dante has etched his name in stone 100 times over. He is without doubt legendary in every sense of the word. The man has served as chapter master of the Blood Angels for over 1,100 years. Far longer than most Space Marines even live, let alone lead their chapter. And the fact that Dante has done this within the darkest time of the galaxy since the Heresy makes it even more impressive. Through sheer resolve and spite, he has held the Blood Angels together. He has clove the bloodthirster Scarbrand in two, driven Gazkol back from Armageddon, and he has denied the full force of High Fleet Leviathan as it came for Baal. Dante can be the wrathful image of Sanguinius at war. He can be diplomatic with other chapters, and he can be humble, setting aside his pride, such as when he had to ask his own successors for numbers to rebuild the Blood Angels chapter. He is renowned and revered by other chapters across the bloodlines, unanimously voted as Supreme Commander in all joint campaigns. And he is one of the few Space Marine names, outside the legendary Primarchs of course, known by the ordinary people across the galaxy. Such is his service and his fame. The Blood Angels quite simply would have been wiped out and consigned to history long ago, if not for Dante. And even now he takes on yet more burden, becoming Guilliman's Warden of Imperium Nihilus, the man tasked with holding half the entire galaxy together. At least until Guilliman can return with the rest of the Indomitus Crusade. And just think about that for a moment. Guilliman appointed Dante as military commander for half the galaxy. Sure, Imperium Nihilus is chaos incarnate, lost to darkness and shattered in terms of a stable empire. But Guilliman bet on Dante to be the man up to the challenge. The man who could carry the weight of responsibility on his back. That's a responsibility that even Primarchs have shied away from. And that is the measure of Dante, the commander and the man. It's little wonder he is such a popular character within the fanbase, and especially combined with Sanguinius. It's no surprise the Blood Angels are consistently the most popular faction. At least that has been my experience, by far. But even placing popularity aside, just focusing on his record and history, you have to say Dante makes an arguable case for greatest chapter master ever. The greatest of all time. The GOAT. And I was having a little think about it the other day during our last discussion on Dante and the Sanguinor, about who, if anyone, could rival Dante for that title. And I mean truly rival him. Have accomplishments that are above and beyond the average chapter master. As much as I love, say, Tushan, Azrael, Grimnar, Cantor, I'm not sure their record is enough. However, there are a few who came to my mind from the Imperium's history. The first is Chapter Master Corland of the Imperial Fists. At the outbreak of the War of the Beast, the return of the Orc Empire after its destruction by the Emperor, Courland would become the last remaining Imperial Fist. The rest of his chapter absolutely annihilated. He was luckily found and saved by an Adeptus Mechanicus salvage team, and it would be Courland himself who would send out the call for the infamous Last Wall, the secret protocol of Rogel Dawn, for all his sons to assemble as the Legion of Old. And with the assembling might of the Old Legion, Courland, last surviving Imperial Fist, would name himself Chapter Master, and he would take his rightful place as commander of the unified Sons of Dawn. And that takes some balls. You want to talk about perseverance, determination, the sheer resolve of Rogel Dawn. Courland, who had seen his entire chapter destroyed, embraced the legacy of being the last remaining Imperial Fist. And he took it straight on, implementing the Last Wall and taking command. And he led them directly to the defense of the Throne World, overcoming tremendous odds, silencing the corruption of the High Lords of Terror, and becoming Lord Commander of the Imperium himself, the first non-standard human since Rabute Guilliman. And he even found Vulcan and brought him back to the Imperium, leading an assembled crusade of first founding chapters to Ulanor and facing the homeworld of the Orc Empire once again. To say that Courland not only saved the Imperium, but the Throne World itself too, is not an understatement. He founded the Death Watch, one of the most important institutions within the Astartes and the Imperium, and he brought the Sisters of Silence back into the fold, a feat that would be repeated by Trajan Valoris nigh on 9,000 years later. In the bleakest, toughest time since the heresy, Courland came to the Imperium's rescue, and much like the future Dante, he did so by becoming much more than a standard chapter master, embracing burden and pressures that far exceeded the expectation of the role. The end of Rogel's legacy, the loss of the Throne World, the defeat of the entire Imperium, all of it was on the line and very close to transpiring. Yet Courland defied it all. No, he doesn't have the longevity of a Dante, but I could argue he had far more on the line than Dante ever has. He wasn't just fighting for Baal's survival, a broken Imperium Nihilus. Courland was fighting for it all, and upon the brink of destruction to boot. The impact he made upon the Imperium was extremely important. Moving on, the next chapter master I have is High Marshal Sigismund. The founding and first ever High Marshal of the Black Templars, Sigismund's name was already etched into legend thanks to the heresy, the Emperor's champion, the greatest Astartes warrior bestriding the stars. It was Sigismund who would make the declaration that the Templars would forever be the Eternal Crusade, never resting in their prosecution of the Emperor's enemies. Who knows just how many worlds and lives this one decision has saved? How many systems have been spared invasion and defeat, thanks to the Templars not waiting, as the rest of the Imperium so often does, until, as usual, it is already too late. It was Sigismund who, in founding and forging the Templars to his will, gave the Imperium the greatest chapter it would ever see. Because regardless of how much achievement and how many victories a chapter may bring, they would still always be limited to their 1,000-man mandate. That would always handicap them, now and forever. Even the Space Wolves, who ignored the Codex Edict, were still limited in numbers somewhat comparatively, due to their ending in the heresy, the devastation the Legion went through. However, the Black Templars knew no such thing. Crusades would be forged all over the Imperium, each designed to be its own individual and independent fighting force. Their numbers would never obey the Codex, with them bearing far more similarity to a legion than ever a chapter. So much so that today, they could well number into the hundreds of thousands. And again, the benefits and impact those Templars would and do have is beyond immeasurable. Far beyond the impact one, or even a combination of other chapters would have. And it all started thanks to Sigismund. But you want more personal glory? Well, at this point we don't know all the further victories Sigismund will reap within the Scouring, already of course having single-handedly dispatched dozens of traitor champions within the heresy. However, what we do know is that Sigismund alone voiced the call the traitors waited still within the Eye of Terror, and he alone kept a sizable force of Templars there on eternal vigil. Sigismund, quite simply, was the original Cadia. He was the Imperium's first fortress world against the ruinous powers. And it was he who awaited Abaddon when he first emerged and returned to the galaxy. We know it would be Sigismund's end, but let's be real here. At over 1,000 years old, with Abaddon still in his prime thanks to the Eye of Terror, and wearing Terminator armour, Sigismund still buried his sword through Abaddon's chest. A blow that would have slain any other, and one that very nearly did Abaddon. I think it's safe to say Sigismund would have annihilated Abaddon had he got to him during the heresy. So, being the original first line of defense against the traitors, when the rest of the Imperium believed them gone, giving us the Eternal Crusade, and everything that has come with it, Sigismund's name as an Imperial Fist may be venerated across the galaxy, but his one as a Templar may unbelievably be even better. When we uncover the victories he tallied up during the years of the Scouring, we could be finding this a no contest in the name of the High Marshal. And those two for me are the standout contenders for the GOAT title, the greatest chapter master of all time. I was contemplating Bjorn the Fell-Handed here, filling the Wolf King's shoes as he did, but really his legacy is in the aftermath, his time within the Dreadnought, when he was no longer Great Wolf. I considered Kaldor Drago too, but he is more of a personal tale of resolve, and though he undoubtedly has defeated grave threats for the Imperium, it's not as wide-ranging as Dante. Really, for me, if anyone rivals Dante in the current Imperium, it has to be Marneus Calgar, the chapter master who governs an empire, not just a system, who has kept Ultramar the bastion of light, the example it needs to be, in an ever-encroaching darkness. A man whose achievements and victories I could list for an age. but a man who, perhaps his greatest, most important moment, gets all too often forgotten. When he arguably, single-handedly, prevented an Astartes civil war. When the Primaris were unveiled to the galaxy, it caused huge shockwaves across the Imperium, none more so than within the Astartes. For every firstborn who rejoiced at the new help, the much-needed reinforcements, there was another who saw them as a blasphemy, a sacrilege of the Emperor's work, or another who saw them as a direct replacement, an insult given the 10,000 years of service the firstborn had given. The tension was very real, and very, very intense. There was even occasions of Black Templar marshals being killed by their own men at daring to receive a torchbearer fleet, an affront to the Emperor. It straight up felt like a civil war could be very, very possible, and there was nothing even Guilliman could do about it, aligned with the Primaris as he was. But it was into this breach that Marneus Calgar strode, being the first ever firstborn to attempt to undergo the Primaris surgery. Marneus Calgar crossed the Rubicon, becoming Primaris himself, using his name, his reputation, his legacy to heal the divide, and in one stroke sparing the Imperium from a self-imposed destruction. For all his victories in battle, that is an accomplishment that Calgar can never be praised enough for, and is a true sign of his mettle, his spirit, his heart. So who is the greatest chapter master ever? Is it truly Dante? Or are there real rivals out there? Names from the annals of the Imperium who can match and even surpass the Blood Angel's own accomplishment? Is it Chapter Master Corland? Is it High Marshal Sigismund? Is it the legend of Marneus Calgar? Honestly, it's a debate that deserves a week special with voting in its own right, because there's definitely other names out there too, so I think maybe we'll do that soon. However, as certain as I was that Dante had to be it, I'll be honest, the more I thought about it, the more I saw genuine competition. So I guess as always everyone, what do you think? Do you think Dante is the greatest chapter master of all time? Does his record and legacy speak for itself? Or are there other names out there who have surpassed him? Are we living in the moment too much when it comes to Dante? Does the legacy of Corland speak for itself? How about the legacy of Sigismund when he was High Marshal of the Black Templars? What about Marneus Calgar? Or do you have another name that springs to mind? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.